Okay, so before I start this video, Evie, you moved. There we go. Uh, I've trained Evie now to be like a YouTube dog, where she was sitting on her couch over there, and then as soon as I start like setting up the video stuff, she hops down and then goes exactly to sit in front of Baby Yoda because she knows it's like time to shoot a video and time to entertain the crowds. So you guys have created a diva, a YouTube superstar corgi. So good job. Thanks for that. All right. What I am actually here to talk about today is Trials of Osiris in Season of the Chosen. And I experienced Trials this weekend on a few different occasions. Once it became clear that Messenger was at 3 wins, everyone seems like they wanted to hop in and at least fail their way to getting that with the bounty. And that kind of got me to experience the new loot, how Trials feels this season, and go back to some of the older issues that haven't been addressed yet. And the reason you are not going to see any gameplay footage of my Trials runs is A, because I'm terrible and that would be embarrassing. I did lose most of my games, not all of my games, but most of them. But the real reason is that I play Trials and pretty much all PvP solely on PS5, and I do not have that set up for capture yet. So just imagine me just wrecking everybody with Glacier Chasm, and that's totally how it went. That was my full Trials experience. I'll start with the good of Trials now, which I think that much is pretty clear from the outset, in that the loot is good and worth pursuing, it seems. Everyone wanted to get in and get Messenger because not only is it, a beloved Destiny 1 weapon, but it's just a very good pulse rifle they've introduced now. And it has a very small perk pool, but almost all the rolls are good, except anything with Celerity. Celerity sucks, but the main draw, like the other Trials weapons, is that it has a unique perk to Trials, and they have brought back Desperado for Messenger, which gives you, what is it? It's like increases your rate of fire when you reload after a precision kill. So the god roll you're trying to get is rapid hit Desperado or Outlaw Desperado. I managed to get 2 Outlaw Desperados, much to the jealousy of everyone, but like the point is like that was motivating enough for me to run Trials on all 3 characters, and I think I got the 3 win, like actual 3 wins on 2 characters, and I did the bounty on all 3. So that was like 5 drops there, and then I got luckily 2 more just from turning in tokens. So the odds were in my favor for that one, and I got the god roll I wanted. But there's a lot of weapons that they're kind of you're squeaking the rabbit. There's a lot of things that they got. They added perks to you, like the fusion now has a special perk where it like dramatically decreases charge time when you're sliding. The sword, I think, has something like chain reaction where it's explosions on kills. I don't know if the hand cannon has something special. I haven't looked that up yet, but the point is generally speaking, this is loot worth pursuing and not really just at an adept loot flawless run level. Though people are obviously, it would be great to get a flawless Outlaw Desperado Messenger once that's in the chest, which it is not yet. But the guns are good and they're worth chasing, and they're even kind of updating some of the older guns. Like the rocket launcher can now get the new perk that does the delayed timer explosion rocket for huge damage. So they're adding new stuff. They're updating old stuff. It's good. Evie. Okay. Armor is also great. We've all seen the sets by now. The 3 Trials of Osiris sets that were created entirely originally for Destiny 2, finally, not a reprised D1 set, all look very good. And as such, I would love to pursue those and try and get them on all 3 of my characters, even if that just means doing 3 win bounty. That's so loud. That's way too loud. Nope, that's too loud. I don't know what is with her the past couple videos. Normally she just like sleeps the entire time, don't you? But you just get so riled now. So that is also worth pursuing. And my times of Trials this time were not like outrageously bad. Like I've had much worse Trials experiences. At least kind of failing the way to the bounty is something where you're going to get some reward at the end of this. My first run I did was I literally just went on LFG because no one I knew was available at the moment. I didn't want to go on Twitter yet. I just wanted to see what would happen on LFG. First group I got into was the type of group that's just straight diving off the edge. every round to get the rounds over with. So I think if you do that for 10 games or 10 losses, you'll get the bounty. I didn't know that was that type of group. I guess I didn't read the title carefully enough, but I thought that when they said like repeated dying or whatever it said, that they were just gonna like lose because they're bad. And I'm like, oh, that sounds great. But no, they just did the straight up suicide method, which I did not like. So I left that game pretty quickly, and I just went into a normal group. I made my own group, and it was just something like, we're just trying to do the bounty, whatever. With that group, I got a guy who was like 1260 power and not great. And then I had a guy who was 1307 base power and quite good. And I was, I'm somewhere in the middle of that. Had some pretty good games, had some really bad games. And we got 4 wins on that card. And so we got the bounty done and we got a drop. And then the next day I did trials with my actual real life friends. And we suckered Mr. Aries from TCP to come help us, who is very good and kind of an expert at flawless runs and doing all sorts of good stuff in PvP. Double carrying both of us who are at mediocre skill levels is a little harder, but he helped us get all sorts of messengers. We hit 3 wins on multiple characters. We did the bounties. Like, we had a good time. It was a lot of fun. But like, you still run into the same stuff. Like, how a game is going to go practically from the moment you line up. It's like 3 flawless people. Everyone's using Steady Hand and Adored or whatever, Steady Hand and Fell Winners. And then if you get a different team where it's like not in a clan stack, like people using just like random loadouts, you're like, okay, this is going to go a lot better. The problem becomes, we would just get 5-0 by one of the like triple flawless teams. And then like 2 games later, after maybe a win and a loss, we would face the exact same team again and obviously get 5-0 again because we were not remotely at the same skill level. And the card-based matchmaking continues to be questionable at best. I still think it's going based on total number of games rather than your actual number of like losses on your card. And then the pool is just too small. There's not enough people in the pool, and so it skews heavily towards the highest skill of PvP players. The argument is always, yeah, it's a pinnacle PvP mode. It's supposed to be hard, blah blah blah. But like, this doesn't really benefit anyone when it's such an exclusionary mode. It frustrates the people at the higher end of the skill level because every match, not like game 5, 6, or 7, every match is like a sweat fest if you don't get the right matchup. And then it frustrates people that are lower skill level because they get stomped literally every single game, pretty much, unless they happen to run into, a similarly bad team, which almost never happens. So I think there's 2 main things going on here. And one is just how horrifically unrewarding Trials is to play at a baseline level. Like, you get nothing on losses. Literally nothing. You get plus 10 Valor. You do not get end of match drops, you do not get tokens, you do not get anything. And so you can play for 6 hours and like get the bounty weapon or the bounty piece of armor and nothing else. It used to be not even the bounty weapon. They had to add that in later. So you could have an entire day of trials. And like, if you could only scrape together 2 wins in a card, you could literally get nothing. It just seems like a total waste of time for the most part, especially when you're we have all these new PvP specific weapons in the playlist. I would have loved to, even if I'm losing a lot, okay, maybe I still have a chance at getting the new sidearm or the new sniper or something, or another Stars and Shadow roll, but those have 0 chance of dropping. There's no blues, no purples, no nothing that can potentially increase your power level, or you can even dismantle it for materials. There's nothing. And then not getting any tokens. This was a massive overcorrection by Bungie back when token farming was first starting to be a thing, where everyone had Astral Horizon, so people would purposefully not get higher tiers of loot just so they could farm lower cards on repeat and get easier matches and just farm up a bunch of tokens, or even like AFK farm kind of, and just get tokens from losses and turn them in that way. That was like an issue for like a couple weeks maybe, but then Bungie changed it so tokens now scale out higher as you go through the card, but at lower levels, it's really nothing. Like, you get the tokens from the bounties and like the repeatables, but then you You have to play in uncomfortable loadouts to get all the repeatables done all the time. If you like hate hand cannons and you get a 20 kill hand cannon bounty, like not great. And it's just you will end up with so few tokens for how many hours you spend, especially just from games, because you usually get at least like one token on a loss or something. Even that I think was too low, because like 20 losses gets you one random drop from the entire pool. Like that's crazy. And like now it's 0. It is 0. So that has not gotten any better. And I think that needs to change. I think trials should be the most rewarding mode to play. I think it should drop the most loot and have the most chances at, playlist specific weapons and umbrals and, whatever else people want to farm for besides just trials loot. And it's the opposite. It's nothing. And that's very frustrating for everybody, but especially lower skill players who cannot even get the win milestones or the higher bundles of tokens later to jump in. The other issue related to this is just overall player population. Increasing the rewards might help that. I am going to be controversial again and maintain that I think Trials needs matchmaking to some extent, or a freelance playlist, something like that. I know it's a little tricky with the cards because it's not like traditional PvP where you're just matching up with a new team every time, and you would have to kind of stay with your card group for, some duration of the card. And if people quit out, it could get complicated. But like, I would be willing to deal with all those potential issues that could probably be solved somehow if it would just dramatically increase the trials population, because you are cutting off, I'd say, at least 80 to 90% of the potential trials pool by not having matchmaking. And people do not enjoy using like LFG services for the most part, like whether it's, on the Bungie app or a different one, but like, it's one thing for a raid when it's like, okay, everyone has to coordinate, everyone has to like, you can't really randomly matchmake because it's just, there's too many things going on, everyone needs mics. It's PvP. Like PvP is not that complicated at a baseline level. Obviously, you will perform a lot better if you are on a coordinated team, if you are all mic'd up, if you are doing strategies, but like, it's not like you fundamentally just don't understand the concept of PvP if you put in matchmaking for something like this. And the more exclusionary Trials is, the worse it becomes for everybody. Because as I said, the top tier people don't want to play with only other top tier people for all the matches, and bottom tier people don't want to only get stomped by top tier people whenever they log in. And you need garbage trash teams in Trials, like, to make it work. And the more of those you have, like, you will still be rewarding the best players without question way more often than you would be lower skill players. Like, you are not really going to go flawless that often with some randomly match-made group of people in Trials Freelance. But you might get a team that cobbles together 3 wins or even 5 wins or something and makes that a little more valuable. But you will still, and then if you have more people that are more of the same skill level, you can go on streaks more like that. And it's just not possible now if you're below a certain skill threshold to hit 3 wins or 5 wins or 7 wins, or, I mean, flawless is almost out of the question completely. And increasing the player population through something like that and through increased reward generation, I think is ultimately the most important thing for the health of the mode. And I understand that it's Trials and it's endgame loot and it should be, the upper echelon, but I think the mode is suffering by being as exclusionary as it is and being as unrewarding as it is for lower tier players. And lower tier players should not have to rely solely on being carried by higher skill players or streamers or people offering to do it for money. Like, it needs to be a much better system than that. And like, we're getting there with the rewards. Like, the actual Trials rewards now are very solid and worth pursuing, but the rewards, besides those, are non-existent. They don't exist at all. And then it's, just trying to do LFG for teams or try to get carried is not a fun experience for most players, so they're not trying at all. It's easy to go in Trials and just get absolutely shredded by 3-5-0 teams in a row and just never want to do it again. I've certainly been there in the past, but I think there's a way through this, and like, we're making very slow progress here, but we're getting there. There's some fundamental changes that need to be made on the lower skill end of the spectrum that will not take anything away from higher skill players, but also it would probably just ultimately benefit them too, with a higher population in the mode, so it is not the crazy sweatfest it is now. Obviously, I've not gone into other issues like 3-peaking and cheating and stuff. 3-peaking, I'm not good enough to like 3-peak or be taken advantage of through 3-peaking, so whatever. Cheating, I don't play on PC, so until we get crossplay and cheaters are on console, I don't really have much to say about that. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on where things are after the first weekend here. I will probably be playing more trials this season than I would have otherwise, depending on what is the the 3 bounty reward. If it's just like the rocket launcher, yeah, I'll skip that week. But if it's armor pieces, if it's any of the new weapons, I'm gonna go for it. Probably on multiple characters because getting all these messengers and getting the god rolls was a very good experience, and I had a good time. It's just I understand why no one wants to even bother a lot of the time. So that's where I'm at now, and we'll see what happens. But Evie has tired herself out from playing the whole video. Evie, hey, say goodbye. Okay. Evie says goodbye. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Take care.